And I will be your moderator for this panel, focusing on access to capital, how to build a business plan and how to build a budget, as well as the cost for getting into business. By a show of hands for our panelists, how many people here today are in the concept stages of being an entrepreneur? You have not yet formally established your business, but you're still in the thought processes of the conception of starting your business. Okay. How many of you have started your business, have been working as an entrepreneur for about 5 years or less? Okay. And then who are the veterans, the veteran women entrepreneurs who have been in business for 5 years or more?
Wow.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down our panel, introduce you to them, and then I'm going to turn it over to them to let them give you a brief bio of themselves, let you know a little bit about themselves, and then we will start questioning, and then after that we will go into questions and answers from the audience. So first we have Bina Elliott, who's the Senior Vice President of Fifth Third Bank. We have, and let me know if I'm messing up your name, Janet Cruz-Basono. Awesome. Founder of Latina Money. We have Fabiana Estrada, the Director of Lending in the Southeast for ACCION. We have, who's down there? I can't see. Okay. We have Maggie Ferentz, Senior Vice President of Credit and Operations Director for Huntington Bank. That sounds like the job of 3 people. And then Jasmine Crow is the founder of Gooder. I'm pronouncing that correctly. Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do is just go down the line, and please share with the audience just anything that you would like them to know.
Well, good afternoon, ladies. You guys seem to be having a great time. Well, hopefully we'll keep it going and keep the party going. I'm super excited to be here. I hail from Detroit, and so Detroit, Michigan, and I lead the bank's community and economic development responsibilities in our 14 markets in 10 states across the country. And I'm focused on right now a $32 billion investment and lending program to drive better outcomes in our communities, specifically those that are low wealth and small businesses. And so hopefully over the next 45 minutes to an hour, we can really talk about, one, what you need to get started, how you access that capital, and some of the things that we can do to demystify capital for you.
Guys, I just want to let you guys know that right now is a really exciting time in entrepreneurship, and I know that when you look at that hurdle of money and you don't have it, you start to really get discouraged, and you say, okay, maybe this isn't the path that I want to go down. But I just want to let you guys know, if nothing else, for the next 45 minutes, to know that there are people out there that want to give you their money, that want to be a part of the projects that you guys are doing, that you guys are creating and unfolding and developing. So don't ever for a minute think that maybe entrepreneurship is not where I'm supposed to be. This idea that I have, I'm just going to tuck shove it under the rug and go back to my day job, because really, the world needs what you have to offer, what you have in your heart, what you have in your mind. And there's so many different sources of funding, whether you're just at the concept stage or whether you are the seasoned entrepreneur. Money is everywhere. And hopefully within this discussion of the next 45 minutes, you guys are going to be able to get a little bit of insight of where to look and how to really align yourselves and what you guys are doing to really secure some of that funding. So keep it up, you guys. First step is that you guys are here.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Fabiana Estrada, and I'm here representing ACCION. ACCION is a non-profit organization that we provide access to capital and financial education. And all of us, we are trying to guess where is the money. In the microfinance world, we have money just to lend to women entrepreneurs like you. And the idea for us is for you guys to be prepared. We want to help you to succeed and not to fail. So that's the reason every contact that you're doing, the networking that you're doing here as well between you guys, will be key for you to develop your business idea or to grow the business and to take the business to the next level. So for me, it will be amazing for you guys to make questions, because everything that we are going to say, probably you could Google and get some information there, but take advantage, ask everything. So we are here to tell you the 101 for lending.
Good afternoon. I'm Maggie Ferentz. I'm from Huntington National Bank. We're a regional bank based out of Columbus, Ohio. So got a lot of questions over the last couple of days of, how's Atlanta treating you? And outside of my extremely flat hair, this has been an amazing 48 hours. So we are, like I mentioned, we're a regional bank based out of Columbus. We're located in 8 retail states, and we are proud to continue to be the single largest SBA lender by volume in the nation. So we're often asked, why, if you're only in 8 states, are you the most active lender in the nation? And really, it has been our commitment to small business. We're extremely passionate about you. And we always say it may be small business, but for us, it's a big deal. With 2 out of every 3 jobs created by small businesses in this country, it's extremely critical that we continue to invest in the people in this room. It's the ideas that spark a revolution in these rooms that become the future of our economy, the future of each of our communities as we continue to grow. And really, one of the biggest things as I'm sitting on a panel like this today is that these are not my competitors. The list of tremendous number of sponsors last night, there's a lot of banks. There's a lot of banks present here. And for so many people in this room that feel like you may not be bankable or you may not have bank financing options, we're here today to continue to find ways to partner together so that even though I'm only in 8 states, someone else can figure out what I'm doing and do it here, and do it in California, or do it in New Mexico, wherever that happens to be. But it's you all that are telling us what we need to be doing to help you. So please, get something out of today's session. Don't be shy. We're here to help, but we're also here to learn. And we want to know what you guys need and how we can help you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine Crow, founder and CEO of Gooder. We are an Atlanta-based social enterprise. I started the business in 2017, and at the time I learned how hard it was for Black women in particular to raise funding, especially from the venture capital world. At the time, that statistic was less than 1%. About 0.3% of all venture capital funding was going to women of color. So it was extremely hard for me to raise capital the very first year. I spent a lot of that first discovery phase, entering pitch competitions and trying to win grants to actually get my product built, because I didn't have the opportunity to turn to banks. I also didn't have the opportunity to turn to my friends and family. My parents had just got divorced after 34 years of marriage and just finished putting my sister through Spelman College. So my resources were really tapped internally. I had to begin to look for outside funds. Although it's been an extremely hard journey, I'm very proud that in August of last year, my company became just one of 35 Black women-led ventures to actually raise over $1 million in capital. And I think today, and while I definitely think that's something to clap for, it's really sad that in 2018, only 35 Black women had raised over $1 million when white men collectively had raised nearly $86 billion. So when you look at that and you look at the statistics of how many Black women entrepreneurs are starting businesses, it was really devastating to me to learn how many of us were not getting funded. And so I think I represent today's panel from an entrepreneur perspective of what it really took to raise that capital. And I have not raised any kind of capitals from loans or banks, so I'm excited to learn from these ladies as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for sharing. I'm very excited now to hear what all of you have to say. And so I will just jump right in, and the first question, we'll get right to it, is what do investors and banks look for when deciding what businesses to invest in? And I'm throwing this out to everyone. You may have experiences in getting lending, or you may be a lender yourself. So if you could just chime in as you will based on that question. Probably Maggie and Fabiana may be good to start.
Probably I'm going to start to reply this question, because as a micro lender, we have a different idea about the business, about you. The micro lending system always is trying to cover a gap. Why a gap? Because probably you don't have the credit score that the traditional lending system is going to require from all of us when we are going to apply for a business loan. Maybe we don't have, like many of you, the 2 years in business. That is one of the main requirements today in order to apply for a business loan. So the microfinance program is there to cover this type of situation. Sometimes also the industries are really very riskier for certain lenders. We have lenders that they don't like to, or don't feel comfortable probably funding business that they are in the food and beverage, or maybe business that they are in the transportation, or maybe business that they are home-based, like many of you really are right now. So the microfinance program, what we are trying to do is to assist you to cover that gap and eventually be bankable. That is our mission, for you to have the education, the tools, and prepare to the big leagues. Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
So there are a lot of banks that will actually lend to startups, and I think that's a very common misconception. There's a lot of people that truly believe they are unbankable or not yet ready for bank financing. And a lot of it actually comes down to both education and, frankly, confidence. I have to tell you, I'm sitting in front of a room of people that have a tremendous amount more courage than I do. I go to a job every day that gives me the security that I know that paycheck is going to be there every other Friday. And yet with unemployment at such a low rate in the nation, I mean, you can walk down the street and find a help wanted sign. You're not going to walk down the street and see a sign in a window that says business wanted, small business startup wanted. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of angst and anxiety that goes into that day that you choose to no longer work for someone, but to start your own business and to take on that amount of anxiety and pressure and the impacts that it will have on your life and on your family and on your future. Yet at the same time, that is such a courageous moment that we want to make sure that we give you the right resources and opportunities to support you. So for me, it always starts with the basics, making sure that you understand your personal financial health. On day one, you as a small business start as you as an individual. So making sure you understand your personal financial health, your personal financial status. What is your credit score? Are you able to pay your bills? Have you historically paid your bills? And something that is so basic as, are you late on your American Express card is going to be one of the things that is going to stand out. Because for a lot of your financing partners that are essentially being, and I will tell you, a bank essentially is an investor in your company. And it is some of the lowest priced, most patient capital that you can get. Because think about some of the investors that you're going to come up into opportunities with. They may want 20% of your profit. They may want 20% of your revenue, not your profit. So finding a good partnership with a bank, finding a good partnership with someone that's going to grow with you is a great opportunity. So step one is making sure you understand where you stand personally, working on those things before you start through the small business process. Step two is a very well thought out business plan. And that is a very common answer, but taking a step back and really walking through what a business plan means. Do you understand how you're going to make that jump from perhaps making cakes out of your kitchen and selling them to a retail location and bakery? Making that jump from being very good at a skill to owning your own small business, perhaps employing people, costs, overhead, your fixed costs, your variable costs, thinking through what we call a cash flow analysis. And this, again, goes back to education and taking the time to really learn the differences between consumer and small business. There's actually some great tools that we're working on right now with Operation HOPE that is going to provide some of this information in a digital platform very soon that we're extremely excited about. And with that also comes the opportunity for, frankly, a lot of this is free. You can go to local resources. You can go to groups like the SBA SCORE centers that exist in most major metropolitan cities. You can find a lot of this information online that'll actually help you prepare and walk through not just what is my mission statement, but have I done a 2-3 year cash flow analysis? How much money do I need to get off the ground? But then how much do I need to live off of? Because keep in mind, you're probably not going to carry a full-time job and start your small business, and it's going to take a while before you start to make money. So making sure you have a well-thought-through plan, that you have some funds to fall back on in an emergency case, that's the kind of stuff that we're looking at.
I'll just make a couple points. Is one, there's a difference between investment and debt. And so when we talk about investments, when Jasmine talked about venture capital, that's a different form of investment in your business than debt. Debt would be what we provide from a bank, from a loan, or from a CDFI, which ACCION is, which is a community development financial institution that can be more mission-based lending, but more flexible. When you think about that ecosystem of how you finance your business, it starts with what you have available, right? From your family, friends, your savings, the home equity loan you take out, or even what you take off your credit card. So that's you bootstrapping your own business. Then you think about that's not enough. In order for me to grow, accelerate my business, be able to hire more people, and take on the jobs I need. So then you think about what's the next layer of capital I need. Typically that will be the venture capital. Now what they'll ask for is a piece of your business potentially, or a very high rate of return, and that's because of the risk model. You might not be a proven commodity. And then you go to the next layer, which could be a CDFI, or it could be a bank. So all of those are components of how you layer in the resources you need for your business. And there's a study that just was done by the Federal Reserve of Kansas City. You all in this room, African American women, are the highest number of women business startups today, substantially. So give yourself a hand clap. And the second thing you need to know that is not so great is that we also have the lowest amount of revenue per business, and we employ the least amount of people. So I applaud you guys for leaping in, but we got to do a little bit more work around how we grow, scale, and partner with each other. If you can't deliver the product completely, you have to bring some other sisters in the room with you so you can deliver a full package to that business so you can grow, so your pitch is complete. We're starting, so that's the big thing, but we actually have to get bigger, we have to scale, and we have to get in businesses that we might not be comfortable with, but we can do the research and get in, scale, and employ our brothers and sisters in our communities.
And Janet or Jasmine, did you have anything you wanted to add? If not, we can move on. Okay. The next question kind of, I don't know if that's me. So the next question kind of builds on that. You talked about it a little bit before. Is this better? Oh, great. Okay. What are the challenges, Maggie mentioned some, that women will face when when applying or looking for capital? Some that you may not have mentioned that are additional barriers to getting access to funding.
So I'll chime in right here is that when I looked at the study that the Kansas Fed shared about Black women in business startups, the reality is a lot of us are leaving these companies because we're underappreciated and we don't feel valued and worth around that. So when we do it, we leap. We're tired, we've had enough. We know we can do the great job, we know the information, we know the material, but we might not always be prepared for business. And so for us, it is so important to just pause for a moment and make sure that you are really documenting and understanding those steps you need. Maggie talked about the business plan. She talked about the credit report. Those are real. So when you leap out there, if we're not fully equipped, we're going to struggle. And so we have to, one, network and be transparent with each other. We're at a place about financial literacy and education, right? So we got to tell the truth. So we have to tell each other, you're not ready, or if you're ready, here are some steps you got to take. And you got to be willing to show all your financials. We're not in your business. We're trying to help you get your business. And so there's a difference between I'm ready and I'm financially ready. And so we have to acknowledge that. We have to, I'll talk about this customer I have today. I'll leave his name out, but he's greedy. And so every time he brings me a deal, I go, you need a partner, you don't have enough experience, you don't have enough equity, you need to bring me a guarantor for this deal. He says, well, that will take away from my profit. So we've done this dance 3 times. I want to give him the loan, but I need a better structure. And I'm saying, bring me a partner that might take 10 to 20% this time, but the next time you can leave him at the door. But you got to get started. And so it's about us being willing to understand what we need to get the experience and the opportunity. Understand maybe the first time you don't make all of the money. You might make some of the money. But what you want to do is watch the person who's done it well, mimic that, repeat it, and then the next time you come in the room and go, I don't need to bring that individual because I've done it, I've saved my money, and I'm ready to go out on my own. Those are some things that we have to be real about.
I'd also like to chime in on the specific question because along with what she was saying, we also have to remember to invest as much time and energy into the heart game of business as we do into the head game of the business, because we are intelligent human beings. We're able to learn the processes. We're able to follow the process, to follow the rules, to meet the requirements. But on the flip side, sometimes we don't have the heart to, to really do business and to say, I'm worth being able to go into that room and know that my idea is worth being invested into. And so I think that's incredibly important for female entrepreneurs, because we are intuitive, we are feeling human beings, but that can work for us in our advantage if we focus those feelings and those emotions to storytelling or to creating community and connections. But they can also wreak havoc on our business if we don't learn how to master, how to get in and out of the yes and no roller coaster that comes with investing and pitching and looking for capital, and not letting the first no really deter you from what you're trying to do and from your grand vision, because a no has the power to really throw you into a downward spiral of self-doubt and insecurity, to where your whole business plan just sort of starts tumbling down. So really, taking the time to learn how to master your emotions and say, okay, I'm gonna learn the process. I'm gonna attack it with my logical brain, but at the same time, know where your emotions might get the best of you, where you can set those aside and say, okay, if somebody said no, I can translate the no into not yet, and really revisit it from a emotionally neutral place and say, maybe I do need some adjustments, on my product, my pricing, or my pitch, really.
So that's actually a great point. We actually, we have some terminology. We actually preach about the statement of not yet. So we actually even encourage most of our relationship managers to not say no, but explain not yet, and really provide a predictable journey to the small business applicant as to why it's a not yet and what they can do to remedy that situation. Some things are so simple as clean up your credit report. Get your house in order before you come back and present a business plan. Some things are as simple as, it's unfortunate how many business plans I'll look at that just don't mathematically work. To sit down with a small business owner and explain to them, you can't actually be open 8 days a week, so this doesn't work. That was real. Yeah. Or simple things like, your restaurant doesn't have 400 tables, it only has 30. So as you kind of take a step back and you look through some basic things, I think the biggest thing is actually coming back to confidence as well. So there's so many resources available to you. You talk about networking for the purposes of raising capital. Network for the purposes of finding good partners who are willing to help you. There is a woman sitting next to you at one of these tables who was you 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Have you asked her how she got started? You may have a brand new concept on the table for a unique restaurant that the city of Atlanta has never seen before, but I promise you there was one like that before that is still thriving and doing well. Learn from them, reach out to them, find an accountant partner, find an attorney that is willing to do some pro bono work. The thing that you don't have that so many of the people that raised $86 billion do is a board of directors and a staff attorney. Find a board of directors in your neighborhood who is willing to help you and wants you to succeed, because 2 out of every 3 of those jobs that they're going to create is going to raise the entire community.
I just want to be real with you guys. The biggest challenge is that we're women, and especially that we're women of color. One of the biggest things that you're going to see is there's just implicit bias out there. I can't tell you how many investors I met with that didn't know what an HBCU was. So when I would say I'm an HBCU graduate, they would say, well, what is that? Where's HBCU at? And I would say that's not a college. It's not a specific place. So I just want you guys to know that that really is a challenge. I went through an accelerator program called TechStars, and I could tell you that I came into that program with customers, with revenue, with a 37-page business plan that was never looked at, with so many things that my white counterparts didn't have. And what the difference was is they would get investment to say, you go and find product market fit. Here's $500,000 to do that. I would come in with product market fit, with customers, with revenue that I had done bootstrapping on my own, and the investors would say, well, well, I don't understand how that's going to work. I don't understand how you're going to make money. So I just want to be real with you that is the biggest challenge. Everything else is going to be, there are other challenges, but the fact that you are a woman and you guys see what's happening with governments right now, how men are making decisions for our bodies, it's the same thing with your business. You are going to sit in front of people who do not understand your business because maybe it's a business that's specifically for women. I had sat in front of people that would say things to me like, well, will there ever be a time where you'll have too much food and no one to give it to? Keep in mind my business is trying to solve hunger and reduce food waste. And I would say to them, well, if that's the case, then I've definitely done my job. But I do not think that'll be a problem because people that are hungry 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus their snacks. So if I'm able to get food for all of them, then I am going to need to have a ton of food. And I think that we're way too early to be asking that question. So just let me be real with you that is a big challenge. The second one that I would say is education around venture capital funding was something that I didn't have access to, that I had to self-educate on. Investors would say things to me like, well, what's your churn rate? What's your LTV? What's the lifetime value of your customer? How much does it cost you to acquire a customer? What's your MRR? And I didn't know what that meant. What they were saying was what's your monthly recurring revenue. So you need to research and do a lot of Google searches and really just make sure that you're up to the terminology. Because when you don't, what they begin to think is that you're not worthy of their investment when you are. The other thing that I would say is because women and women of color have received so few investments, we have fewer success stories. And so how investors look, they have little score sheets, and they look to say, okay, founder, technical founder, they went to Stanford, they check all these boxes. My investment in them is going to be very likely to succeed because the other investments that I've made in white male co-founders that went to an Ivy League school, that had a tech idea, is going to be really good. But what you see is that the truth is 9 out of 10 investments fail. That's why investors make so many, so they don't know everything. And a lot of times you're coming in with a unique value proposition and a unique business that has never been done before. So you really have to find investors that are aligned with you. And the final challenge that I would say is that you're gonna go in and you're gonna see very few people that look like you. I have no investor meetings that I ever took that had a woman or a woman of color in the room. So my lead investor is a black male. But other than that, I probably had to take 100 meetings before I ever saw him. And we were on a Zoom meeting, and he had called in at first, and then he came on the screen, and I remember texting my co-founder like, oh my God, he's black. Like, I couldn't believe it because his name was Charles Hudson, which sounded very, across the line, so I just didn't know. But when I saw him pop up on the screen, it was so shocking to me because 100 meetings in, I had never saw anyone that looked like me. And so that often is a challenge as well. But I still believe, even having been successful in raising funding, and I ask myself all the time, will I go and raise more venture capital funding? The truth is probably not, because I don't want to continue to make investors wealthy and rich who are not aligned with my goals and values. And so my biggest advice to you would be to get to revenue and make money, and so you don't have to give up your company or pay back people who didn't believe in you in the first place.
You know what, I need to say something that is a reality. We know that for every dollar that a man gets paid, we have only 79 cents. So that's a big difference. So this is something that we have to still continue the fight, absolutely. Even the fact that we have been making a lot of progress, but our salaries are lower from, at certain position, a man is going to make more. And this is going to affect our ratios, the ability to repay. So my best suggestion will be, we are talking about education, to be prepared. And we have a mission at home with our kids, with our family, explain about the alternatives that they are out there, the financial education tools that we have at no cost, or everything that is doing at the SBA level, with a score, with the SBDC, with organizations that they are out there to provide support. Because which is very important for us to have in mind that every time that we need to request for money, a loan, or to be in front of someone that is going to review our business plan, we need to be prepared. Maybe it's not the time when we have the late payment on the American Express to go and ask for money because I'm showing that I have something weak on my credit because of any reason. Do not apply that time. Like you said, maybe not right now, but probably in 2, in 3 months, you will be in the right position to get, funding or to be in a different situation. So most of the time is education, and we have a very important mission at home: educate our kids. Last week we were doing a presentation at a school, and we were talking about credit. And one of the kids, he was a sweetheart, he said that he could be building credit paying your taxes. So, and we said, no, taxes is something that you have to pay, but nobody, the IRS is not going to report to your credit report. So this is the conversation that we have to have with our kids as well at home.
And so I just want to say, and many of you probably already know the statistic that Fabiana just gave. As you know, Black or African American women make 53 cents to every dollar. 67. So we still have a ways to go. The next question I have, and I think I want to pose it to Jasmine first. Once you receive the capital, what's the best way in managing it?
Yeah, I think before you receive the capital, you should have a well thought out budget and projections. And so I did 5-year projections and 3-year projections. I looked at how many people I wanted to have, how I was trying to grow the business, what I wanted to pay people for salaries, and then I wanted to make sure that my burn rate was really low. So I knew that I wanted to have whatever I raised lead me for a year and a half, 18 months, so typically 12 to 18 months. And we've done really well with our burn management. We worked out of a co-working space for a year to really save money, so we just now got our first office location, and so we have really made sure that we stayed under what that monthly burn rate would be. So a lot of it is just really having a budget, hire the right people that can help you bring in revenue, because I think a lot of times people think, hey, let me raise some funding and I'll be done with it. This will be the money that I need to get my business going. But it's all about still having revenue goals and revenue projections that you want to hit, making sure that you're growing month over month. And if you're not, looking at where the stalls are in your business cycle, understanding sales cycles and what it's really taking you to close a deal so that you can better manage how long that money is going to last you. But I think a lot of times before you raise any money, you should know how you're going to spend it. And so you need to have all the planning and the projections done for it. And then once you have it in there, you just need to well manage it. And if you've done your projections, and obviously projections are projections, so they're never right. But if you try and stay under a margin of burn, which is monthly, like burn is a term for what you're spending every single month, how much cash are you burning through. And there were times where we would have a really high burn. We'd be spending $75,000 a month because we had, just brought on all of our staff, or we had a lot of travel, or we had a lot of burn in development agencies paying for tech. And so then I would have to say, okay, next month, no one can travel. Or next month, we are going to not have this tech spend, so we'll be able to balance out. And so we really try and keep our burn under about $50,000 a month, which is still pretty high, but it keeps us to a point where we really will not have to raise more funding if we choose to go that route until like next year. The other thing is to never raise money when you need money, because you really want the leverage in your hands. So once you've already have money in the bank, then it's like, hey, we're making money, we have money, I technically don't need your money. But if you want to give me money, these are the terms that I'm looking to raise that money under. The biggest thing that you'll hear with venture capital funding is actually valuation. What is your company worth? And when we were raising funds, a lot of people were giving us really low valuations, and me and my co-founder, we would argue that, and it really helped us. We would go back, people would say, well, you don't have a technical person on your team, and we would say, well, we don't need one because we have the product, it's already built, we outsource just like everybody else does. All the big boys have people in India. You can't, call a call service right now for whoever, Verizon, T-Mobile, it's not always someone in America that answers your phone. And so we would be able to explain why we didn't need the things that they were placing our valuation on. And what I found is that once one person gave us that valuation, everyone else just kind of fell in line. And so when you're looking at managing your cash flow, again, that helps you to really stand on a higher valuation. And so now we're able to say when we raised our money, we were $5 million, we were worth $5 million pre-money valuation, so we gave up about 12% of our company for what we raised, and now we are already worth $10 million in less than a year. And so when we go out and raise again, we'll be able to say that, and it'll be based off of how you spent the money that you used and what you were able to do with that. And so that's why it's just really important that you're spending wisely, and that you're making really good hiring decisions, and that you're closing gaps on team, and that you really understand your processes, because what investors want to see, especially venture capital investors, they're looking for the next billion-dollar company. You know, they're looking for the Rings and the Ubers and the companies that are going to IPO. And so what they want to see is that I've taken this little bit of money and I've done all of this. And so with more money, what I'm going to be able to do is replicate that. And so our story going in is how we took a little over $1 million and went from 1 city to 10, and how we want to take more money and go from 10 cities to 20 and get our first international expansion, grow our team. So a lot of what I think investing is actually storytelling. And it's really about, this is the story, this is the team, this is what we do, and this is what your money is going to help us do.
Did anyone else have anything you want to add?
I was just going to echo what Jasmine said. She brought up some great points around cash management. She called it burn management, but it's all about how you manage your cash. And we have a story of somebody similar in Detroit, Lip Bar. Does anybody wear Lip Bar lipstick? So Melissa Butler, she got a no on Shark's Tank. They told her no within 3 minutes. They were like, who's going to buy that? Nobody. So her first loan came from one of our CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions, where we bought the truck for her. Then she did a blind call, emailed a Target, sent their product to her. She sent them their product. They launched her in 44 stores. So we provided her initial capital from our CDFI partner for that initial capital. I just was with Melissa last week. She's now in 500 Target stores. She got venture capital from Our Voices, Dennis Richelieu, Shea Moisture products. So there are some conscious investors out there based on your products. And when she talked about the value system and being aligned, that was his whole purpose of that fund. But if you think about it, she had 3 different sources of financing. She had CDFI funding, she has venture capital, and she bootstrapped her business. And so last week when I was talking to her, I said, okay, now you're ready for bank financing. And our terms are, when Maggie talked about it, we are the cheapest source of funding, but it's also the one that we want a lot more proof points around. But she moved all those resources through those components. But it takes one, we talked about what does it take? It takes people like me being in a room. I'm gonna be honest. So when you go into a place and you say there's nobody that looks like me or gets me or understands my business, that's probably a big red sign, right? Doesn't mean it can't get done, but you gotta lean in a lot harder. You gotta ask for it. And the other thing I want you to remind you of is most businesses do not get the money they ask for. And so you have to be mindful of, if it's just enough to keep you going, is it enough for you to take? Because if you only get enough to keep you going, you're in trouble. And so you have to say, I need this much money to get going. And you have to keep going after that amount of money so that it might be from 3 different sources, but do not take the $100,000 or $200,000 when you need $500,000. Because now you're in debt for $200,000, you're unprofitable, and you're not gonna survive. So you have to know what you need. You have to be diligent about getting it. And you might leap with only $400,000, but don't leap with half.
So we're nearing the end of our time. Do we have time for question and answers? Okay. So we have about 5 minutes for question and answers. I saw your hand first, and your hand second, and then we'll see, and your hand third. So we'll do those 3, and if there's still time after that, we'll take more. And if you could go ahead and just kind of pose that to whoever you need to pose it to, and if you need a mic, let me know.
Actually, just go to the podium if you have one.
So the 3 people, if you can go ahead and come up, then that will buy us a little bit of time.
Hi, ladies. How are you today? Great. So my question is more so in experience. My husband and I previously owned a staffing agency. And at the time that we were starting that staffing agency, we went to get a loan. Now, at the time we went to go get this loan, everything that you said, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name.
Maggie.
Patty. Maggie, sorry. I'm changing her name. We qualified. Great credit, right? Bills, everything paid for. We had enough collateral from a property management business to 5 years worth of cash to manage the business that we were asking for. And we went through a franchise. So all of the operational processes and everything, the strategy, your 2 to 3 year cash flow, we had all of that. We could not get a loan.
Okay, so one of the biggest things that I like to talk about, would you buy a house without walking through it 4 or 5 different times? Would you buy a car without test driving it? This may not be your experience, but too many times I get this feedback, and my answer is, did you interview your bank? So your bank is asking a tremendous amount from you. What are you asking of them? And do they match your profile? Are they a small business, startup entity? Are they going to be willing to grow with you? Because too often times you're going to get a $200,000, $400,000 yes, but you need $1 million, or you may need $3 million 2 years from now. And if you're at a smaller community bank, they may not lend $3 million to small businesses. Their policy may cap them at $2 million. So starting with, who am I? What do I want to be? And is this a good match for me? So the U.S. Small Business Administration exists for the purpose of making sure that there are entities in the financial institution space that will support startups, minority and female-owned businesses at the very base level. But not every institution even partners with them. So making sure that you spend the time to say, am I walking into an institution that on day one wants my business? So just make sure that you take the time to interview your bank.
Yeah, it's something that we mentioned before, that certain lenders, they don't have an appetite for certain industries. That it could be as well something that happened in your situation. And the other thing that it could, so that's something that you have to be really very careful when you are opening up a business account. Is there an appetite for your industry, for franchise?
You'd be a slam dunk for me.
Yeah, with the SBA. The SBA, we know that they have franchise that they are already approved. So it's really very weird. Probably your lender has no interest in that type of industry. We know lenders that they like, professional, doctors, vets, but maybe probably, so it's something that happened in the past in reference of that.
Is there a follow-up? We'll be around afterwards too, guys.
Hello, my name is Tiffany. I'm kind of nervous, so don't mind me. So my credit score is like in the upper, probably like 780 or something like that. Like I got approved for American Express, this, that, and the other. And it's like, why can't I get approved for a business loan? And I was just wondering, and this is just a thought. I can get approved for all these high credit cards, 200,000 or this, that, and other that I compared to what I was probably, my income to ratio, debt ratio.
So your business qualification versus your
Yes.
personal qualification.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering, is it safer to probably go with getting a credit card instead of trying to fight for you all to lend me money to start a business?
Can I ask you a question? Are you a startup?
Yes.
So when you're a startup, you don't have business credit.
Yeah.
You just got your personal credit. Doesn't mean you can't get a small business loan, but what we know is that you can pay back your personal debt. And so the likelihood of you getting personal debt, access to that is easier than business debt. Because what we look for typically with business debt is maybe your credit report, but also your Dun and Bradstreet. And we don't have a DMB record of how you pay your vendors, pay your business debt back, how you manage your employees and your taxes. That means that part of that record's incomplete. So that's the difference between them. We talked about sort of what you do when you're a startup is you can do an SBA loan, you can bootstrap it. You typically do use your personal credit as a startup because you don't have a business profile yet. But when you talked about the relationship you have with the bank, it is so important, and Jasmine talked about it. Don't go to the bank when you first need your capital. You want to go open up a business account. And tell them, and sit with the banker and say, I'm opening up my business account, and let me tell you about my business. And it's about that relationship. This is all relationship lending.
Yeah, because I pretty much did all those steps. Pretty much, I have my Dun and Bradstreet, I have the business account, doing everything in that nature. And it's like, no,
Get
no,
another
no, no.
bank.
Let's
Get
talk.
another bank.
Let's talk when you leave here. I'd like to
Get
learn a little
another
bit more.
bank.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Victoria Stroud, founder of The Dope Desk. I love podcasts, business podcasts like I built this. I so rarely hear from Black female entrepreneurs who have won with venture capital. So thank you so much, Jasmine, for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And my question is actually for you. So my idea for a business, I'm just starting out in the idea phase, and it's a large scale idea. It can be scaled down, but what I've heard time and time again is that if you have a big idea, it's possible for you to do it, so don't scale it down. But it's gonna take a lot of money that I don't have. And I don't believe I'm ready for debt. So how do we find venture capitalists or anyone or investors? I mean, I've Googled it, I've tried to find it. I don't have the network to connect me. What's the key? Is it an accelerator? How do we get there?
Well, that's great, and I would love to learn more about your business because I'm becoming an angel investor and I'm investing in businesses myself. So would love to learn more. Two things. One, I would say, can you start small and prove it? Like when we get a lot of our customers, we say, you know, before you sign $1 million contract with us, we'd be willing to try a pilot with you for one of your locations to prove how our services work. So I would see if you could do something small with a little bit of money, like what can you bootstrap to get started, and then you could replicate it. So if it's really big, there should be something that you could do really small. And I always use Uber as an example. For 3 years, they were just in San Francisco and New York. And so they started within one market and then started to grow. So see what you could do from a small level. And then I think investors are introduced to other investors. So a lot of times you can send like a forwardable email. There's a really great website called Angel List. And so you can find different angel investors throughout Atlanta. There's a lot of angel groups. There's also a lot of pitch competitions that you can enter, and a lot of times those judges will be investors. Another thing that you could look at is a website called Crunchbase. And why I love Crunchbase is I would go and look at similar companies. So for me, I would look at who's invested in recycling companies, who's invested in waste management companies, and I would see all of those different investors, and then I would literally just start to write them, connect with them on LinkedIn. Every investor, especially VC, has like an associate whose sole job is to deal source. So they're always looking for deals. They're always looking to bring people to the table. The final thing I would say is that even though I love it and I hate it, there are a lot of different funds that are trying to, you know, now invest in women or invest in women of color. Sometimes it's just to check a box and say that they do it, which isn't always great, but take advantage of that, right? So I would look at, I know Goldman Sachs just introduced a $500 million fund commitment to invest in women of color. So that's one that you could look at. You have to be a little higher up, like I'm not even ready for it yet, but still I talk to them early just to see like, hey, what does it take to really get here? And then accelerators, you could also find them on a website called FS6, F as in Frank, S as in Sam, 6.com. Tons of accelerators. They're always listed. You create a profile, you put your team on there, and then you literally can just start applying to them. And there's accelerators all over the country. Some of them will give you anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000 just to kind of get started and flesh out your idea and get going. So I think go to FS6, Angel List, again, for angel investors and angel groups. So there's one in Atlanta called Golden Seeds, which is like, to be honest with you, just high net worth individuals that want to invest. And so they make investments every month. And then there's another fund called the Jump Fund, which is based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Or it's Knoxville, it's one of the villes in Tennessee, and they invest in women, and so they typically write a check for like $250,000. So my biggest thing is, before getting investors, get revenue, because if not, they're gonna take a lot of your company, they're gonna say this is a really high investment, but if you could say like, you know, without your money, I've already made this money, so you have more leverage, and that's the biggest thing you want, is to have leverage so that you get the valuation that you want. The good thing I think about VC funding as opposed to like loans and debt is if you're not successful, you're just not successful. You know what I mean? You're not like obligated to pay somebody back. It makes it harder for you to get investment again. But I just want to still live in a world where a Black woman can fall down, get back up, and get a second opportunity to get more funding. It's not there yet. So I want every woman that does go after venture capital funding to be a success so that it will open more doors for everybody else. So I wouldn't take it if you're not ready.
Okay.
Hey, Jasmine, is there any cohort or a women's group that you know of that you guys can work together? Is there anything like that available?
For women, Yeah, I think we can create one. I mean, if I don't know what your business is, so if it's not tech,
Yeah,
but there's
it's
so many.
retail,
So like,
yeah.
if it's retail, like Target has a retail accelerator that they do in Minnesota. So I don't know exactly if it's like. So there's like tons of corporations are starting to get in venture capital because what they want to do is if you could kind of be a competitor to them, they want to help groom you so then they can take over. They can buy you. So that's kind of how that works. SAP has a fund. That we did, which was really good. It was for women and diverse founders, and it was in New York. There are so many, but just feel free to email me, and then I can help you navigate a few. There's a few of them out there, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this amazing panel. My name is Liberty White, and I run Chosen Media, which is a video marketing agency. And my question to you is, for companies that create content or build community, which is not traditional when it comes to like funding, what are some tips or advice before coming to present? Like, how could we navigate that in our attempt to scale?
Can I chime in on this one? With the platform that I currently have, we are more content-based, and one thing that I realized is that content is very powerful because you do have to have that long-term vision to say, do I want to self-fund? Do I even really want angel investors? Do I want to give part of my company away? Do I just want to have sole control? And I think with content, it's a beautiful opportunity for you to not only have ownership of what you're putting out there, but also in this digital age of infopreneurs, of passive income, of really generating money online. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to not only make a lot of money, but also spread the message that you're trying to put out there and create that kind of community that you're looking for. So I would say to invest your energy into producing online courses on
Which we have one coming for small business owners next month.
Awesome. That is a wonderful, online education is really taking over nowadays. College is so expensive, so I think a lot of people are really shifting towards, self-learning and hopping online and, just getting what you need for, more bang for your buck, really. But so, I think that that's a great opportunity when you're content-based is do online education, do events, do mentorships, packages, consulting. Those are really wonderful ways to generate income.
And I like to add something. When we are looking for funding, don't be in desperation mood, because out there we have a lot of people that they are not regulated, like our lenders here. We have people that they are the shark loan, the hard equity lenders, so try to avoid those. This is very expensive. They are getting into your bank account and making, daily payments. This is not helping our business. And for women entrepreneurs, sometimes in a moment of passion, maybe we could say, okay, let's take this type of loan. They are expensive, they are not regulated, and ACCION, we are working with the Bill of Rights for the Consumer Protection Act that eventually will be there one time. But let's try to be protected between ourselves. Don't pay expensive, amount of money for a loan that probably they are from predatory lenders, that they are not regulated. Try to avoid them. They are not building credit. They are going to take your money, and that will be all.
Okay, last question.
But I buy data.
Sorry,
We
go
buy
ahead.
data and we buy media content, and we have a dearth of content that speaks to us in this room. And so when we're talking at companies, it's all about the data. It's all about the followership, subscribers, how you can connect. So those proven concepts are really important, and how you unpack that data and charge for those data points are extremely important in your pricing model.
Thank you all.
Hello. My name is Kayla. I own Don G Media, which is a media production and digital marketing company. So one of the things that I found in being in areas like this and other entrepreneur groups is that, kind of to what you mentioned earlier about how certain lenders just aren't interested in your industry. I found a lot of pitch competitions and things like that cater towards tech startups, things that are physical products, things that can be scaled, and I don't do anything like that. But also being a young Black girl in the South and just never even imagining doing something like that, you know, in my mind I went from I can do this as a freelancer to building an agency, but I don't have a lot of resources and information and access to people who have done that like that. So I'm very curious as to know if you have any advice for that particular kind of industry in terms of getting funding, finding funding, getting the information you need to make a business plan. You know, where do you start? I know somebody mentioned, you know, do you start small? Do you present the idea as big as it can go? Just trying to navigate that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, my suggestion always is to go to the SBA.gov. That is an amazing website, and you could find SCORE, SBDC, that they could provide the technical assistance. And also with the SBA, there is a program that ACCION, as a microlender, we do, that is called Community Advantage Loan. That loan is one kind of the 7A loans that is fully dedicated for minorities, for women entrepreneurs, for LMI areas, for veterans as well. So try to do your research, like we were talking about. That is the first step that you have to take, because probably, like you said, maybe it's not the industry, but we have programs out there that they are fully designated to assist you. A microloan, it could be a perfect solution for you.
And actually, if you start on the SBA's website, they have something called Lender Match. Yeah. And you can actually place information about your profile into the system, and it will actually bring banks to you and other programs that are in your industry. Many institutions are actually completely agnostic to the industry or the whatever type of business that you're running in and of itself. So in those moments, you know, if you're nervous about walking in to a bank and having a conversation about the person not understanding your business, not looking like you, not coming from your background, this gives you a little bit of that, it takes some of the pressure off on day one of saying, this is who I am, this is what I need, and they will actually bring opportunities to you. And it kind of works like Lending Tree. You can take a look at it and say, you know, wow, these people might match with me, and then you can go from there and choose who you want to do more research on.
But if you're freelancing now, you should talk to the customers you're serving. Why did they reach out to you? Where's the dearth in the marketplace that allowed them to come to you? And also find out who does maybe their mainstream work and maybe meet with them. So I think you need a little bit more data around that business model you have and why they're using you, and can you scale that? Because I think what you need is probably to see who's doing it well, how do you connect with them, maybe a mentor, somebody who does a piece of the work. They're freelancing out to you a piece of the work. So what's the bigger job?
I would also say Georgia is such a great place right now. A lot of people may be pulling out with the new laws, but it is such a good place.
I live in Alabama.
Oh, Alabama.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
They even worse, baby.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that. But one thing I would do is, I loved her point about finding mentors. Also make sure that you register as a DBE, an MBE, and a WBE business, because now a lot of businesses have taken these challenges to make sure that they're spending money with more diverse suppliers. So that could be a way for you to earn more revenue. And I would look at, like, what's the long-term vision? A lot of times people think it's really small. I'm not a big tech company. I'm not this. I thought that as well, but my big vision was like, I want to end hunger, and I need to do that on a global level. So start thinking of what you want to do globally. And then I know Comcast is like starting to invest in a lot of media companies. So it's called Comcast Ventures, and they have an accelerator with NBC called NBC Lift Labs. It's in Philadelphia, so you'd have to go to Philadelphia for about 3 months. But it's all about media, and I have a friend that went through it and would be more than happy to connect you guys.
All right, that is our time. Thank you all for sharing your time with us.